The information in this video is brought to you by University of Vermont Extension, with funding from the Northeast Center for Risk Management Education, through a grant from the United States Department of Agriculture.
We're still in the middle of building.
Keith Morris owns Willow Crossing Farm in Jeffersonville.
Horticulture comes from hortus, which means that those things are inside your fence or inside your wall. And then
over 300 species of plants grow on this 30-acre farm. Everything from fruit and nut trees to vegetables and herbs. Morris farms using a practice called permaculture. It's a systems approach to farming, a kind of ecological engineering that promotes sustainability for both the farmer and the environment.
This is the leaf scar on the butternut. Oh, we jokingly call it the monkey face.
Like every farmer, Morris sees things on his farm that the casual viewer might miss. What for some seems like a garden variety vegetable and berry operation looks to Morris like a dream come true.
I was 22 years old at the time I started looking for farmland, and quite frankly I was in no position to get a mortgage, and nor was I in any position to make an offer on farmland, and started shopping primarily to educate myself in terms of relative values and get a sense of what was out there and what it was worth and how the process of acquiring farmland worked.
In the course of his visits to various properties, Morris came across this location in the Lamoille Valley. Not too long after, he hit on an idea of how to turn this old hayfield into his own farm.
I started looking at, what I was spending per month for renting an apartment, and looking at what that might get me in terms of farmland was a lot more than many farmers would pay for rent for things like haying, for instance, which was all this farm was used for at the time. And proposed a rent-to-own arrangement where I was paying a little bit more than you would normally pay for regular agricultural land lease, with an eye towards buying it in the end of a relatively short-term lease. I love it. I'm planting hundreds of them because I want to see more of them.
Red clover blossoms to rose hips.
Corey Gelinas, Morris's partner in life and in business, makes teas, tinctures, and oils from herbs she grows on the farm. Gelinas shares her partner's dream of farming. It's a goal that keeps her grounded and yet open to thinking outside the box.
My first 2 years on this farm was not it was not easy. It's a lot of work and very challenging and very frustrating, where you're crying and you're exhausted, and especially with children or a child at the point on the farm. It wasn't fun all the time, but it was very rewarding. For years prior to that, though, I was dreaming this up. I was writing business plans. I was trying to figure out. I did all of the prep work on paper in my mind and at school, and trying to figure out where this place is going to be. We have properties and we have a farm and we have all these things, and none of it has been through working with banks and finding the traditional route. We just aren't traditional people, and that hasn't stopped us from getting our dreams accomplished,
As you would like to.
Yeah.
Bob Parsons is an agricultural economist with University of Vermont Extension.
Most young farmers have several things. They have lots of initiative, they have lots of ideas, and they have no money.
Parsons sees the lease-to-own approach as one of the less risky ways to go about owning a farm.
One, it provides the young farmer assurance that this property will be theirs someday. Two, they can go about making the long-term improvements that they would like to make in this land, whether it plants multi-year crops or making a building, or you need a shop, you need a residence, you need a sales unit on the farm. And three, it is a long-term agreement, but it allows the farmer to know that they're going to be able to purchase this without coming up with the large down payment that is required for most land purchases, where you need maybe 10 or 20% cash to lay down.
Berries, sugar bush trees.
A lease-to-own option does favor young farmers, but Parsons also believes that this option gives landholders certain guarantees as well.
The landholder, he has probably made an effort that he would like to see a farmer on this land, and so he has a long-term agreement then of how this property will be going over to the young farmer. So some of the key parts of this are, determining how long this thing's going to transpire before it's actually the property is transferred. It includes of what the price the land is going to be, and how to treat this income that is received, that the farmer is paying to the landowner, because this is where it gets into a little bit of complexity that you need to work with an accountant, because is this money that he's paying, is that sale money for the land, or is that rental income for the land? And so both of them need to be working with this, know what the objective is, and lay this out, and working with an accountant so that they all know how exactly this transpires.
After 9 years, Morris and Gelinas now own the property debt-free. This experience has taught them that accountants and lawyers are key to the process, but it's also important to make sure that the buyer and seller share the same vision.
We did have a contract, and quite frankly, I think there's some things that we both learned in this process and that we might have done differently or possibly could have done better. But we had a written agreement which was as clear as possible. And we had really open communication and conversations about our intentions and what would happen in any variety of worst case scenarios, so that before the fact we had mutual understanding as to what would result.
Even though Morris's experience has been positive, he advises caution and a slow growth approach when it comes to any agricultural business.
Finding land is obviously a significant challenge to starting a farm, and as exciting as things like lease-to-own arrangements are, or other loans and incentives that help get young farmers on land, I think many beginning farmers and young farmers might do best to start developing their enterprises and their expertise even before acquiring land, or especially before undertaking a significant amount of debt. If you can find a rented plot that even doesn't end up with long-term tenure, and develop your style of agriculture, figure out where your markets are, figure out what types of work you're really inclined to enjoy, you're only going to be that much more informed in your search for land once, and that much more informed as to what makes sense for you in terms of risk and debt. In the winter, as a hedgerow and snow.
From dream to reality, Willow Cross Farm exemplifies how to borrow an idea and make it into something a little more permanent.